You can't make this stuff up. But I have something bad to tell you, but something hilarious to tell you all at the same time that only God can do to give me a segue into this sermon. All right. So we had family over this morning. We had a beautiful brunch. Thank you, daughter, for helping Mom put it together. It was awesome. And yes, my son Richard is with us with his girlfriend Valerie back there. Sierra, her boyfriend, Freddie. So they're all here with us. Mom's fiance over here, Jeff, right behind here. He's there with us. So we got the family posse. So Valerie was nice enough. Valerie and Richie gave us a fruit dish. All right, and all kinds of nice fruit.
All right, now it's
Yeah, don't give it away. So we get ready to go, and we put the fruit on top of the car. You know where I'm going with this, right? So usually it's my wife because she just loses her keys constantly. I mean, I don't know, but. I'm usually, we'll hear something like jiggling as you're driving, and I'm like, the keys are in the side door, and that's how I know, So we're driving, and I hear this buzzing noise, and I'm thinking, is there bees following us? Like it's springtime or something, right? I look in the mirror, and all of a sudden I see this fruit flying everywhere, and then I see the dish just go boom, right off like a UFO. And I said, hold it. Pull over, and we pull over, and there's fruit. Whatever animal gets a hold of that today, they're going to be like, Easter Sunday, And I'm sorry about it. It was so beautiful, and especially the strawberries. Oh, God, that hurt. But the whole thing just went everywhere, and I was like, all right, just leave that there, and we'll just bring the dish with us. But the title of the sermon, son, if you could flip to the next, is this. Living life in the rearview mirror. Come on, Dave. Right? How in the world, right?
Only you can do that.
I had a whole different beginning to this, and God said, no, we're gonna illustrate this, shall we? Today I have a question for you. Do you live every day living your life in the rearview mirror? Kicking yourself? Regrets? When you look at your life and you look back, you can see how there were storms in that picture, right? Looking backward. The other day, I don't know why, but I had this urge to go through my contacts and delete a lot of people. Because I collected all these names over the years, and a lot of them I don't keep in touch with anymore. And so that was not a big deal. But then I got to the names where the people were deceased. And I kind of stopped and paused for a minute. And I was going through the contacts and like, okay. And in my mind, it was almost like playing a movie. It was like I was going back in my head and I was going, I remember that person. I remember that person. That person moved away. That person was awesome, but we lost contact. And then I come up on Pastor George Buck, who we just laid to rest last week from my former church. And I saw this picture, and I just stopped for a minute. And I thought to myself, wow, what he did and invested in me is paying eternal dividends right now for many people, and he's going on to get his reward. But as I'm flipping through my contact list, life was looking in the rearview mirror. And this day, I don't like it when God does this, but he was convicting me all week about it and saying, you need to re-examine your life, Steve. And you need to tell the people about it. And I'm like, Lord, we're not going to do that today. We're going to say everybody else has the problem, right? Wink, wink. No. He chooses to say, no, you need to be a little transparent today. I'm like, okay, all right, fine, whatever. We go to the next slide. Now, that's not my actual car, but I had that. You guys remember the 1999, the red Nissan? They got totaled. Remember that day? Here it was 1999. And we had just gotten, we were married March of 99, right? We're 20 years now. And I'd been itching to take, we were talking about doing a family trip, and we had never been together as a family. And so we made our first trip to Disney World. The day before, I was living in Mantua and working here in Wheaton, the old corporate building.
Didn't Seth come on that trip?
Yes, he did.
So it wasn't 99?
No, I'm sorry. The car's in 99. It was 2001. I'm sorry. You're right. Thank you, honey. It keeps me on track. So the car is in 99, right? So I'm making a left. This is the day before that we're going on the trip. I'm making a left-hand turn into the building. And as I look in the rearview mirror, I have my coffee in my hand. Got to take care of the coffee sake, right? So I got the coffee in my hand, and I go like this, and I go to drink, and I remember looking in my rearview mirror, and everything looked good, and I'm getting ready to make a left, and people were still coming. So I'm like, okay, hey, this is cool. I can't wait to go on the trip tomorrow. We're all going together. This is going to be great. And all of a sudden, I look back up in the rearview mirror, and the rearview mirror got full. Have you ever had that happen to you? Where all of a sudden, like, it got like completely covered with something, a car, whatever? And I saw it almost like it was in quick motion, not slow motion. And it went like this. And before I went to go put the coffee down and I looked back up, I saw this car coming dead at me. Now I've had that happen before, so I know that look. And before I remember setting it right in the holder, and before I could take my hand back off, that car slammed right into the back of our car. And the next thing I remember is I'm on the other side of the road, and there's this minivan that rammed into that little car. Believe it or not, I fit in that Nissan. I don't know how, but I did. It's pretty crazy, right? Here's the thing. God reminded me that in life, the older we get, the more that rearview mirror gets full. What do I mean by that? As you get older, and some of my elder brothers and sisters will tell you, we like to tell stories, don't we? We start to reflect back on our life. Now some of you are younger going, yeah, sure, whatever. I was there, okay? As you get older, though, you start to reflect back more about your life. And by the time you get into your 70s and 80s and so forth, many times, you have a lot to talk about because you've experienced life more, right? Or at least you've been on this earth more, shall we say. But what happens also is we think that we're going to make it to 80 and 90. And we know that it's not always the case. Some people die young. There's no time limit. When God says it's enough, it's enough. But what happens is we look in the rearview mirror and start looking at what could have been, should have been, maybe I should have done this. If I had only done this, if I had only married this person, if I had only made a right-hand turn instead of a left, if I had just gotten over a little bit quicker in that left turn, maybe I wouldn't have got hit. Maybe the car wouldn't have been totaled. Maybe I wouldn't have a degenerative disc in my lower back now because of it that keeps getting worse over time. I don't know. But what happens is people start to live their life looking back more than they do look forward. And I'm here to tell you that I believe God wants us to be forward-thinking people. Not just on this earth, but beyond the grave. Looking forward, not back. So what I'm going to show you is a little bit of transparency that's been going on with my wife and I. Next slide, Seth. Not that one, but it's okay, stay there. Let me just talk real quick about the Bible, and then I'll flip to that screen. Many people in the Bible showed regrets. By the way, that drawing, I found that was done by somebody in the 1900s. It's pretty cool. Adam and Eve, when they realized that they were naked because of sin, they regretted it. Sarah, when she gave her husband permission to sleep with their much younger maidservant Hagar so they could have a baby instead of waiting on God. That was a regret. Samson, when his eyes were gouged out, at the end of his life because he played games with the Philistines. And one last time he says, Lord, I know I'm going to die, but one last time, let me just do some damage here. And he did. King David sleeping with Uriah's wife Bathsheba. He regretted it. See, these Bible characters all had stuff. They don't just walk around going, I'm a revered figure. No, they were messed up. The Bible itself is messed up. It's about life. Life's messed up. Anybody with me here?
Yeah.
Are you guys with me here? Are you awake? Is anybody home? Are we here? Okay, just making sure. So let's go to the next slide. But there was one character that left out of the Bible. His name was Stephen Paul Harris, the man who had a lot of regrets. Shows my gray. I don't know. One was how he treated his wife and his family. Take a look at this journal entry. What my wife, next slide, buddy. One thing that my wife and I are doing is we decided every day for the next year, we are going to do this thing called Love Dare. It's a movie that came out years ago. And it was called Fireproof. And it was about marriages. It's a Christian movie. But the Love Dare actually challenges you every day with your partner to talk about a subject, and it says love is, blah, 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 love is. And it gives you a little bit of a devotional, and then it gives you what they call a dare. So like, dare to love your partner and do this for them today, or pray for them, or read this verse, or whatever. So what happens is, every day I document this, and my wife does too. And when it's done, we're going to publish it, I think, as our first book. But this is pretty, risky. Because the things that we talk about, we're healing through. And some of it's very personal. But the bottom line is, if we didn't do this, I don't know if that healing will come the way it's coming right now. Because I see in those letters, there's regrets that we both have. There's regrets about our past. There's regrets of, why didn't we get the memo then? Why did it take 15, 20 years? Why did it take our kids going through what they went through? Why? And now we're at a point where we're like, it's over. They've all grown up and done well. But even whatever they have to give it to God, and they have to live their lives. Because we're all broken people. We all need help. But the thing is, if you're younger and you're raising a family right now, you have a chance to change it. Once you get to that spot where they're adults and everything, you're looking in the rearview mirror at that point. Now maybe there's grandkids. Maybe you can make a difference in them. And what I'm saying is, what I'm about to read to you was about anger. There was about 4 or 5 of them. And God emphasizes something, and you just get sick of it after a while. You with me here? Okay. So, he kept talking about anger all week, the other week. And I'm like, I'm getting angry about talking about anger. Is anybody with me here? Right? So here's what it says. I started off usually this way. And I know you guys are like, ooh, okay. Good afternoon, love of my life. I actually say good afternoon or good morning, beautiful. That's what I always call her. It says, as I write this, you were going through, and by the way, I didn't tell anybody this, but yes, Anna Marie had some tests done. You were going through tests to make sure that you don't have appendix issues. My prayers are with you, my love. It was unexpected, but I'm not worried. By the way, she's fine. But I said, okay, back to the devotional. We've covered this anger thing a few times, so let me focus on this one statement. Quote, if our love is to be like God's love, it must be slow to anger, ready to release, and quick to forgive. That's actually James, I think it's 1:9. That's a serious scripture that I probably should get a tattoo of. Because it really is hard to do at times. Let me continue. Ready to release, I said. I've struggled with this through our entire marriage. I've gotten so heated and fired up over stupid stuff, it's no wonder I don't have a bad heart. All the stress I put myself under, my family, for what? It just doesn't make any sense. All the foolish stuff I got mad at, and what did it do for us? Absolutely nothing. If God's wrath were to be unleashed on me right now, I wouldn't stand a chance. So who am I to blow up at you? Needless to say, these are things that just aren't worth it anymore, and they never were. That's wearing my heart on the sleeve to you guys. But one thing that God showed me was, you had pent up anger because of something, and you didn't know how to deal with it because you didn't have me. And what I had an angst with was my dad. And because I had this ball of fire in me that I didn't know what to do with, I just took it wherever I wanted to, and it just went, bah! At any given time. Any little thing would set me off, and it would just go, boom, right on out. And I'd be like, boom, boom, come right back in. Out it comes, don't know why is Steve going crazy. I don't know, I just said this. Wham! And then it comes back. And it would do this all the time. It'd be somebody at work. It would be the kids acting up. It would be my wife just said something to me wrong, and I'd be like, what'd you just say? Blah, 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 blah. Diarrhea of the mouth, right? And it would come out. Why? Because I had this angst I didn't know what to do with. I couldn't let it go. I didn't know what to do with it. I'm angry at someone, and I don't even know how to deal with it. I don't even know why I'm angry. Is anybody with me here? Yes. Does anybody else struggle with this? You don't have to raise your hand. But the bottom line is it could be me. You're going to be pissed off at me. That's cool. That's all right. But the bottom line is God wants us to come to Him so that we can be healed to move forward instead of looking at the rearview mirror. Amen. I did something that I realized that hurt our daughter very badly. And she kept telling me about it, and indirectly, and little comments that she does, because she's kind of like, her and I are like this. Like, you know, we're kind of like the leaders, like we kind of like clash, you know. I realized that I hurt her because the day came that I adopted her, the judge gave me a little bear to give her. A teddy bear. And I used to get mad at her because she would clean her room, which a little kid, it's hard for them to clean a room. But I would go overboard and I would do all this crazy stuff, and one day I packed her toys up and said, they're out of here, I'm done. And with it was the bear. And so it wasn't so long ago that she reminded me of that. And I remembered specifically that God said to me, you need to go online right now, find the bear that's closest to what you remember, and buy it and tell her you're sorry. And I did. And I'm here to tell you, if you get nothing else out of this sermon, I'm not even started yet, the regret that I have that I did that to her. The regret that I did, the way I talked to my stepson and my son, they're both one, they're sons. The way I treated them at times. The way I treated my wife at times. The way I treated my family at times. The way I even treated the church at times. I'm so ashamed of it, it's not even funny. And most pastors won't get up here and tell you that. Because they don't have the problem, you do. That's baloney. We're all in this together, aren't we? Yeah. Are you guys living online? We're all together on this, aren't we? And I'm saying to you that I showed you that because I want you to understand that what we're getting into about regrets, you don't want to have a laundry list at the end of your life of regrets. Don't do it. Say you're sorry to people. Go back and say, you know what, my bad. Go back and take a look at your life and say, hey, but you can't live there. You got to move forward. You can't stay in it. And I stayed in it for the longest time. Next slide, Seth. Here's a person that has regrets. His name is Judas Iscariot. Judas walked with Jesus. He talked with Jesus. He ate with Jesus. He was the accountant, if you would, of the resources they had at the time when they would go and minister to people. He was the one that controlled all that. He saw the miracles. He heard the wisdom. And yet what we're about to see that happened right before the death of Christ, this is some strong words by Christ. Matthew chapter 26, if you want to turn there, or you can just look at the screen, here's what it says. It's verses 14 to 26, and then we're going to skip down to 20 and 25. And here's what it says. Then one of the 12, now you get 12 disciples getting together, they're having what they call the Last Supper. And it says, one of the 12, the one called Judas Iscariot, went to the chief priests and he asked, what are you willing to give me if I deliver Jesus over to you? And they counted out for him 30 pieces of silver. And from then on, Judas watched for an opportunity to hand him over. He was working with the priest because the priest wanted Jesus dead because he was a troublemaker. He went around calling himself Messiah, meaning, I am the one sent by God to rescue the Jews. But what they didn't realize was he was there to save the world, not just get him out of the Roman occupation. Verses 20 and 25 says, when evening came, Jesus was reclining at the table with the 12. And while they were eating, he said, truly I tell you, one of you will betray me. They were very sad and began to say to one another, "Surely you don't mean me, Lord." And Jesus replied, "The one who has dipped his hand into the bowl with me will betray me. The Son of Man will go just as it was written about him. But woe to the man who betrays the Son of Man. It would be better off for him if he had never been born." Then Judas, the one who betrayed him, said, "Surely you don't mean me, Rabbi," which in Jewish language that would be a teacher. And Jesus answered, "You have said so." That sent shivers down my spine, that if he said that about me one day, it'd have been better off that you were never born. People think that way. They think that God thinks that way of them. He knew Judas's heart. He knew that Judas was going to do this. He knew his desperate, wicked way. And he knew it was all part of God's plan. Later on in this story, he talks about how he repents of it. But it was too late at that point. Let's go to the next slide, Seth. Before I go into that, here's what happened. Jesus gets arrested. Jesus gets crucified. Judas goes back to the priest, and he throws the money at him and says, "It's yours." And they say, "Oh, no. That's blood money. We can't take that." They buy a field, and he goes and he hangs himself. And that's how his life ends. There are many people walking this earth right now that have regrets, and they can't seem to get out of their own way. They can't seem to get out of their own way because they don't see the future ahead of them. They don't see the future that God has for them. And what they do is they go backward and they go backward and they replay the record over and over and over again. Maybe it was something where they got a divorce. Maybe it was something they did to their kids. Maybe it was something where they were involved in a murder, and if they had just not been there at that wrong place at the wrong time. There are many people that are in jail right now saying, "I wish I had a second chance." And if you visit an old age home, you're going to find a lot of people that are going to say the same thing. "I wish I could have. I wish I could have. I wish I should have." And you don't know when that rearview mirror is going to get completely full and it's over with. It could be young, it could be older.